Okay, good evening, everyone. We have a fabulous program for you coming up next. We have Courtney Murphy here. She's going to tell you about student loan repayments, something that's very stressful for a lot of people, and I'm sure that you're going to learn so much tonight. So take it away, Courtney.
Thank you so much for having me, Sal. I'm happy to be here, and like Sal said, thank you for being here. I know at the end of a long day, thinking about your student loan debt is probably the last thing that you want to talk about. But hopefully, you get something useful out of tonight's session, and you are feeling more positive about what could be a bleak situation. Before we jump in, I just wanted to there we go. Our agenda for tonight, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the organization, that I work for. And then we're going to tackle the three strategies for tackling student debt. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the student loan world right now. And we're going to talk about some repayment options and explore forgiveness, cancellation, and discharge, right? Those are the good ones, right? Those are the ones that we all hope for. And I'm going to leave you tonight with hopefully links to every possible resource that can answer any possible question that you have, including my own information if you would like a one-on-one consultation. But first, a little bit about Legal Services of Long Island. We recently changed our name. We used to be known as Nassau Suffolk Law Services, but now we are Legal Services of Long Island. And I'm sure, hopefully, you're all familiar with cop shows or Law and Order, and you see a person when they're arrested, and the cop says, "You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be provided for you." Right? So take that same person who can't afford a lawyer, except they're not being arrested, they're being evicted, right? They're not entitled to a free lawyer. That's where agencies like legal services come in. We provide free legal services to people who can't afford lawyers. And we have over 6,000 cases each year. We do direct representation, meaning a lot of our lawyers are in court every single day on behalf of clients. We also do some counseling, which is mostly what my job is. I talk to people and help them through situations, although I do litigation as well in the student loan arena. We can also, if we can't help you, we have strict income guidelines. So you might not be within our framework. We can certainly give you either a brief service or a referral to another agency. We serve Nassau and Suffolk, so we have three offices, and lawyers can be in any of those offices. So depending on where you are, we can come to meet you. So I work in Hempstead, but if you're out in Middle Country and you have a student loan and you want to meet, I can meet you in our Islandia office. And our staff ranges from not just attorneys, but we have paralegals and social workers and case managers as well. We do a lot of work with the different community agencies in each county. There we go. There are our offices. And just an overview of some of the types of cases that we handle. We have a domestic violence unit both in Suffolk County and now brand new in Nassau. They're going to start taking cases, I believe, next month. And that's questions of family-based orders of protection or child support or things that happen in the family court. A big disability and health-related project. So if you are entitled to benefits and you're not getting them, we can advocate on your behalf. Um, each department within our agency has different income guidelines. So if you or somebody you know thinks they might be of need of one of these services, you can certainly contact our office and we will do a screening to see if you qualify. Here are some others: consumer debt. Our housing unit is huge. They are in court every single day, keeping clients from being evicted. We have a pro bono project. So we get lawyers who are not practicing within our agency to take on cases for a pro bono nature. So it's not going to cost you anything. All of our services are free if you qualify. Now, the best part about the department that I'm in, which is called EdCap, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means, is there are no income guidelines. So we can help anyone, no matter the situation. So if Jeff Bezos comes to me and says, "Hey, I have student loans. Can you help me?" I can. We're not restricted by income when it comes to student loans. So As you look at this, and I'm going to give you our website in a second, if you think you or somebody else that you know could use these services, please, I ask you to call and ask for a screening. If you are interested in student loan help, don't worry about any fee guidelines. We can help anyone and everyone. And our website has more information about what services they provide under these large categories. And there are other events that we host. We host webinars as well. And here is our brand new website, and you can find all of this information there. So I work for legal services. However, we are funded by an organization called EdCap. And just to note, even if I address your questions here, it is not forming an attorney-client relationship. So nothing you say in this webinar or any question that you ask in the chat, it is not confidential. So don't give out any personal information if you don't want the others in the webinar to know. If you would like to talk one-on-one and have more privacy, I'll have my information at the end of the slide. Also, this is not legal advice. This is what I know in this field as of right now. There are lots of things that are changing and there are lots of unknowns. So, what the things that we talk about, please note that they are in a constant flux, and it's important to stay abreast of what's happening with these programs. But we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into the intricacies of student loan debt. So EdCap is who I also work for, I guess. I don't know. And EdCap is a department. It stands for Education Debt Consumer Assistance Program. And they are run out of New York City and the Community Service Society, and they help tackle student debt across New York State. So there are other people like me working for other legal service providers all over New York State doing this, and we get all of our information and all of our help and all of our assistance from the amazing people at EdCap. They really are just the beacons of light in this current landscape that we're living in. So if you hear EdCap, go to their website. They also have separate webinars, and they have a great one out right now about tax implications of student loan and choosing an IDR program and whether you should file jointly. They are really the experts on student loans. So if you're interested in checking out their website, I suggest that you do so. And really, their goal is to just help everybody manage the debt to the best of their ability so that they can live the lives that they want to lead. Okay, let's jump right in. The 3 strategies for tackling your student debt. Before we begin, I just want you to know that I too was in the same boat that I'm sure all of you are in. I had debt from law school. I just recently had it forgiven, thank goodness, just in time for my daughter to be starting college in 2 years, where I will go back into parent student debt. So I feel your pain. I know that this is very stressful, and my loans probably could have been forgiven years ago, but I just didn't want to deal with it. Um, the good news is there are options. We're not going to talk too much today about getting loans for school, but if you are in a situation where you are thinking about going back to school, or if your child is in a situation where they are approaching their college years, I just want to warn you to stay away from private debt. Stay away from taking out a private loan. If you have to, do it. But as unfavorable as the government can be and is right now, you're always going to have more options with federal student loans. So borrow money from the government, they're going to be nicer. Private loans, it's this is what you owe, this is when it's due. If you don't pay me, I will sue. So just a word moving forward, if you are taking out more student debt, please, even if they get rid of the Department of Education and states are in charge, borrow money from the government. They're always going to be nicer to you than private institutions. So 3 strategies for tackling the debt that you already have. Now, we say strategies because there isn't one right answer. What you choose to do with your loan really is based on your situation and your priorities. So, what you're going to see as a constant thread throughout our conversation tonight is time versus money, which, of course, are the most important things in our daily lives. So as you're thinking through your own situations, think, is time more important? Do I really want to pay this loan off quickly? Or is not paying a lot of money at once more important than how long this loan is going to follow me? So as we talk through the options, I want you to be thinking about time and money. Okay, so here are the basic three strategies. First thing is you want to pay your debt in full as quickly as possible. That sounds so lovely. It is an option. And I have spoken to people where this is their choice. They are saving money so that they can pay off their entire debt as soon as possible. This is an option where if you have a small principal and you have a high income, oh, I only owe $1,000 and I can save that up for a few months and just pay it off in once. That's awesome. You're going to pay a lot of money at once, but the debt is going to be gone in a short amount of time. And the ways you can do this are with what are called a standard loan, a standard repayment plan. Now, if you are just coming out of school, um, you're going to be in a grace period before your loans go into repayment. Once you're out of that grace period and you go into repayment, they automatically put you in to a standard repayment plan. So what a standard plan is, they take how much you owe and they divide it by usually 120 payments or 10 years. The standard plans are 10 years. You can make them longer, and we'll talk about that in a second. But they take how much you owe and divide it by 120 months. Whatever that turns out to be, that's how much you pay per month. And if you have a high debt, that's going to be a very high number that you have to pay on a monthly basis. So high money, but your debt is going to be paid in 10 years. Right? If you keep paying that money every single month, your debt will go away in 10 years, which if you're just coming out of college and you can do that and you don't want to have this debt hanging over you and maybe you're looking for a house, whatever situation you're in, that might be what you want to do. So you can do a standard repayment plan. There are, like I said, extended standard repayment plans where you can choose to go for 15 years or 20 years, again, paying the same amount per month, and you don't have to do anything. Once a month, you get a notice from your servicer. Hopefully, sometimes they don't, but you pay the same amount. You don't have to you don't have to reapply for anything. You don't have to check on anything. You don't have to worry about litigation. You don't have to follow the news. You just pay that amount, and in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, your debt will be paid. It also helps maintain your interest, right? It's not going to be rising and rising and rising, and your principal isn't going to be growing and growing and growing as well. There are also graduated standard repayment plans. So if you're just out of school and you're starting a job and you're not making a lot of money, you can start off with a low monthly amount and have it increase every year, anticipating that your salary will also increase every year. And again, your money's going to go up, but the time it takes to pay off your loan is going to be 10, 15, 20 years, whatever you choose. So if time is of the issue, if time is what you're concerned with, a standard repayment plan is probably your best interest, in your best interest. But a lot of us, most of us, are not in that situation. A lot of us are, hey, my monthly payment is way too high based on the salary that I make, the cost of living, all of the other expenses. I live on Long Island. I can't afford a high monthly student loan payment. So then we're going to talk about paying the minimum required and pursuing forgiveness or some other discharge. So instead of doing the graduated plan, which breaks it up evenly, you can do what's called an income-driven repayment plan. And there's going to be a whole slide. There's different types of income-driven repayment plans. And that basically says, instead of dividing my loan, can you just look at my tax returns and see how much I can pay? Right? This is what I'm making. This is what my expenses are. There's a whole calculation for what they will consider your disposable income. And they will say, okay, you're going to pay a percentage of the extra money you have each month towards your student loan. Sometimes it's zero. And you might have a zero monthly payment, and that still counts as a payment. I have clients who are paying $20 a month, $30 a month, $60 a month, as opposed to hundreds that they would be paying in a standard plan. So the income driven, it really is based off of your income and your circumstances. You're going to be paying that per month. That's low money. It is going to be high time. So you are probably not going to pay that loan off in 10 years. You are probably not going to pay that loan off in 15 years. There's a very good chance that if you're paying $20, $30 a month, you're not even tackling the principal for each month. So your interest is going to grow, it's going to get capitalized. You're going to see your total loan number go up. So why would you do that? Why would you go into this income driven repayment plan? Well, there are options for forgiveness. So being in a income driven repayment plan where you're paying a little amount per month is good because you're working towards forgiveness. You're working towards some kind of discharge, which we're going to talk about that. And there are some IDR forgiveness options that will make your loans go away without you having to pay the total amount. If you don't qualify for any of the forgiveness or the discharge, I'm sorry, it's going to get a little dark here, but your student loans will not follow you after death. They will not become part of your estate as a creditor. So you could just pay that minimum amount, whether it be $20, $30, $60, for the rest of your life. Again, low amount of money, long time possibly. And there are some people who just don't like to have that cloud over them, that debt over them. But if you're paying the monthly minimums, it's not going to be affecting your credit report. It's not going to be affecting your credit rating. It's just there, and it's going to be growing. But if you know that it's going away, hopefully that can get you through it. All right. So the three options, or I say pay it, delay it, or die. Those are your options. Most of us choose the delay it, and we'll talk about why. This is just a caveat for everything that I say tonight. Things are changing. You may have heard of the SAVE plan. It was in litigation this summer. The Eighth Circuit made a decision about it. It is probably going away. It is one of these IDR plans, and the whole Department of Education might be going away. What that looks like, what that means, we don't know. But the ideas that we're going to talk about tonight and the management strategies, I think, are going to be with us no matter who's running. If the Department of Education goes away, your loans aren't going away. It's just going to be somebody else who has them. And I anticipate that these options will still be available in some form. So just some court challenges. SAVE was a great program. Like I said earlier, when you're doing an income driven repayment plan, they take that, what they calculate as your disposable income, and they take a percentage of that. The SAVE plan took 5%. So it was low monthly payment. Um, President Biden did this on his own. It is not law. And so the courts were able to undo it, and they're in the process of undoing it. So when SAVE goes away, the other IDR plans are 10% or 15% of your disposable income. So it's the same idea. It's just a little bit higher per month. So SAVE was awesome. It was great. If it goes away, that's okay. There are still options to be paying less than you would be paying in a standard repayment plan. And the other options are statutory, meaning it's going to be harder for an administration to get rid of them. And a lot of the discharges and forgiveness things that we're going to talk about, they are also based in statute, meaning it's going to be harder for this administration to get rid of them. It doesn't mean they are not going to try, but it's definitely they should be around longer than SAVE is going to be around. And then the one thing that catches my eye on this screen is expect long delays. The government is shut down in some parts, and the Department of Ed and the federal student aid is a part of this. We are not getting a lot of word from them on what's happening and what we can anticipate. And they are not accepting consolidation and IDR applications at the moment. They are also not taking total and permanent disability applications at the moment. But we do expect those to be up and running again, hopefully soon. Okay, so let's talk about IDR plans, because this is where I think most of us live. Okay, so you have your traditional repayment plan. That's take the entire loan, divide it by 120 payments. Again, it's more predictable. You don't have to reapply for it. So you just stay in your traditional repayment plan, and that's it. Whereas with the income-driven repayment plans, first you have to qualify for it. It's an application process that you can do online through the FSA website. Like I said, I don't think you can do it. As of Friday, they stopped taking applications, but that should resume soon. But you can do it online. You need to upload your taxes for the last 2 years, and they will determine what you can pay per month. But it is something that you need to renew every single year. So if you're somebody who just wants to forget about it and just pay it and not think about it, then a traditional repayment plan would be best for you. Income driven repayment plan, if you are in a situation where you need to pay, then that's fine, but you need to stay on top of it, because you could revert back to a traditional payment plan and they wouldn't necessarily tell you. So if you don't reapply, they're going to put you back in that traditional payment and your payment's going to go up. And if you continue to pay the lower amount, you're going to be in a delinquency and then a default. You'll see that the FSA doesn't communicate often and or well. So it is something that you have to stay on top of every single year, making sure that you reapply and stay in the same. If your income goes up, you might not qualify for the same income-driven repayment plan, right? They might put you in another one, but you have to do that every single year. So it's something that you have to manage. Um, see. Here we talked about a longer repayment period. We're going to talk about why that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then here are some of the plans, right? We have the save plan, that's going away. The pay as you earn. This is a program that we think all of the people who applied for save are going to automatically be transferred to this payee program, which means as your salary increases based on your experience and your perhaps time with a certain employer, your payments would go up, which is why you need to reapply every year so they can see what your situation is. Again, the more you pay, the more you're paying towards your total debt. But the goal really with income-driven repayment plans is to not pay off your debt. I hate to say that, but that's the plan. The plan is to pay a little bit now and never pay the whole amount. Um, and then there's income-based repayment, which is, again, you have to apply for it. And then we have income contingent repayment. These all sound very similar. The only real differences are the types of loans that you have. So if you have Parent Plus loans, meaning you took out a loan on behalf of your child, you can only apply for the ICR. You're not eligible for any of these other income-driven repayment plans. So the types of loan and the eligibility requirements for them are a little bit different, but the idea is the same, right? You're going to pay a little bit less per month, but you're going to be extending the length of the total loan. So we have the SAFE plan. It is on hold. The Eighth Circuit just said, no, it is not likely to survive. It is not going to be. And then we have the income-based. You have to qualify and you have to have direct or FFELP loans. Now, you might be saying, I don't know what kind of loans I have. Of course you don't. You're not supposed to know that. How they would expect anybody to know what kind of loans that they have is silly. Maybe you took them out a long time ago, or maybe you took them out last year and you just don't know what type you have. That's fine. One thing I have to say is the FSA, the Federal Student Aid website, is very user-friendly. It's very graphic. It's very visual. I didn't mean graphic in a bad way. It uses graphics in a good way. So if you haven't logged on to the FSA website, or if you don't have an FSA website account, I suggest that you do that first. It's going to tell you the types of loans that you have. A direct loan means it comes directly from the government. Um, and when we get to discharges and cancellations, you need to have a direct loan. So you're saying, oh my goodness, Courtney, I took out loans 20 years ago. I have Perkins loans, which are not in existence anymore. No big deal. You can take all of your older loans, whether they be FELP loans or Perkins loans or not private, they have to be government based, and you can consolidate them, which means they pay off all of the old loans and they give you one new loan. And that would be a direct loan. It's called a DCL, a direct consolidation loan. So if you are interested in applying for these IDR plans, you would first do a consolidation application. In fact, it is one application. As part of the consolidation application, they ask you, what IDR plan do you want to be in? So don't worry about what types of plans that you have. If you want to get into an IDR plan, you can consolidate them. It also makes things a lot easier. If you've done undergraduate and graduate, you might have, I've seen people with 10, 12, 15 different loans. That's a lot to keep track of. So if you consolidate, they'll turn it into one, either one or two. If you have subsidized and unsubsidized, they might turn it into two consolidated loans. Then you're applicable for any of these IDR plans. Okay, this is the part that I want to focus on. Oh no. So we're going to talk about there are some conditional forgiveness options. But if you are in the income-based repayment plan, you can get forgiveness after 20 years, right? This is for undergraduate. I believe even with this, if your loans are after 2014, if they're graduate loans, I believe it's still 25 years. But if you are paying for 20 or 25 years, the minimum amount, whatever they determine it to be, and that might change from year to year based on your application and your status, if you pay, it can be forgiven. I say can because I don't know if this is going to stick around, this forgiveness, but there's no requirements for forgiveness other than that you've been paying for the 20 years. So again, this is that time versus money of I can't afford to pay a high amount right now. So I'm going to pay a lesser amount. My principal and my interest are going to grow and grow and grow. But if I can stomach that for 20 years or 25 years, there's a good chance that the entire amount will be forgiven. Um, and these both income test applies. That's why they want to see your taxes and they want to know your expenses to know that this is something that you need. To be honest, I don't know that it's a hard test. I think most people, the hardest part about getting into an IDR plan, I think, is just the backlog at the FSA. Things are taking a very long time. You'll see on the FSA site, there are options to do things on paper or electronically. I would always recommend doing things electronically. They seem to deal with electronic applications faster than they deal with paper. So the backlog seems to take a long time, but I don't know that the income test is really all that strict. I think a lot of people qualify. And then pay as you earn. Again, it's very similar. It's the lowest one. Save was 5%, which is now going to be gone. This is 10%. So um, if income and paying a monthly amount is the stressor in your life right now, and this is the situation, I don't care how long this loan follows me. I am in a situation right now where I can't afford to pay a lot for my monthly. Try getting into payee. It's going to be 10%. And hopefully after 20 years, it goes away. All right. The ICR, this is mostly parent plus borrowers. Forgiveness, no income test, which is great. It is the 20%, so it's going to be a little bit higher per month. It's probably going to be less than what you would pay in a standard or a traditional repayment plan. Now, you might be thinking, well, how do I know how much I'm going to pay in each of them? The FSA website has a student loan simulator, so you can put in information. They'll ask you a bunch of questions about your income, your marital status, things of that nature, and they'll take the different loans that you have and they'll give you an approximation of what you would pay in a standard repayment per month, what you would pay in an IBR per month, what you would pay in payee per month, and you can get a sense of, I hate to say good things about the government, but this loan simulator is pretty cool. It will tell you not only how much you have to pay per month, it'll tell you how long it will take you to pay off the loan, paying that amount, and how much you will have paid overall. Right. So you might have taken out $15,000 to go to school, and it's going to take you 30 years to pay off this loan, and you might end up paying $40,000 total, which sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but you're paying for the privilege to pay it off over a longer period of time. So again, it's that, do I want to pay it off now and pay more, or do I want to pay less and pay it off over a longer period of time? And again, this is forgiveness after 25 years. But I have to say, the principal, it goes up. It goes up. That 15,000 after 20 years could be close to $100,000 based on your interest rate and how much you're paying per month. But if it goes away, who cares? Who cares how high it gets? So how else can we make loans go away? Okay. The SAVE plan. Yeah, that's not happening. All right. Forgiveness, cancellation, and discharge, right? This is how we wave our magic wand and we make all of the loans disappear. So first we have that income-driven repayment forgiveness. So if you get into an IDR plan, you can get that 10 to 20 years forgiveness. Now, the kicker is, what if you've been paying for 8 or 9 years in a traditional plan, and now you go into an IDR plan? Do you get credit? Not now. They did have a one-time account adjustment where they gave people credit, but that has ended. So if you enroll in an IDR plan now, it's going to be 20 years from the time you get into the IDR plan. So if you've been in a standard repayment plan for 20 years, you might have another 20 years before it's forgiven, or in an IDR plan, maybe you're working towards another type of forgiveness. Okay, the next one, PSLF. I would say the majority of my practice is helping people with public service loan forgiveness. And this is how I got my loans forgiven. So basically, the government wants to encourage people to work public service jobs. We want teachers, we want nurses, we want lawyers working for nonprofits, government employees. We want people to take what are unfortunately lower paying jobs that do a greater good, but we're going to give them a benefit here. If you work in a qualifying employer for 10 years, that's 120 months, then all of your loans are forgiven. Of course, they have to be consolidated and you need to be in an IDR first. So there are steps to get this, and then you consolidate, you get into an IDR, which is good because you want to pay as little as possible. That's the goal. You want to pay as little as possible over the course of those 10 years, knowing that it's going to disappear, hopefully. And then you apply for public service loan forgiveness. If you are at the beginning of the process, apply right away. So if you are just out of college and you are working at a nonprofit, also on the FSA website, if you go to the public service loan forgiveness page, you can search up your employer to see if they qualify, because you'd be surprised how many employers are considered public service. So if you don't know who you're working for qualifies or not, please check it out because it's a great thing. And I would apply once you're in an IDR plan. Because it's something that you also need to renew every year. And where we're seeing a lot of problems is people who are at the end of the 10 years or beyond the 10 years applying for PSLF the first time and having to get credit for years that have already happened. And the government doesn't always do a good count. Yes, public service, you can apply after your 10 years. So if you have 8, 9, 10 years already in a public service position, you can apply. In order to get public service loan forgiveness, there are 2 qualifications. One, you need to be working for a qualified employer. As part of the application, you have to get a certification from your employer. So if like over the course of my career, I worked for several Catholic schools and several nonprofit agencies. I think there were four employers over the span of 10 years. So I had to get four separate public service loan forgiveness employment certifications that I sent out to the employer. And I said, this is the years that I worked. Can you please sign off on this and submit it? They did. So for all of the months that you have certified employment, that's the first test. The second strand or the second thing that you need to get PSLF credit for that month is you need to be in repayment. So if you are in forbearance or if you are in school deferment, those months do not count. So you might be working for a nonprofit, but if you were in a COVID forbearance, they did give some credit for those. But if you are in like a SAVE forbearance right now, those of us who applied for SAVE, you're in a forbearance, meaning you're not paying, it's on hold. That's what a forbearance means. It's like your loan is on hold. You're not getting credits for those months, even if you are still working for the qualified employer. So you need to have worked for the employer and have paid that month to get credit for the month, and you need 120 of those months. They don't need to be consecutive. It started in 2007. So between 2007 and now, any employment can be included in your PSLF um, application. Um, but if you are in the process or if you work, I would apply right now to try and get credit wherever you are in the process. Do not wait till you get to the 10 years and then apply, because then you have to you have to hope that they qualify each and every month, which for some reason they don't. A lot of my clients have gaps in their PSLF. And, I have public school teachers who've worked for 20, 30 years as a public school teacher, and they have 32 months instead of 120. And it's like, wait, what happened? They were working there, they were paying, and getting the government to go back and do recounts. It's with a friendly administration, it was very hard to do. And I don't think that the current administration is going to go out of their way to give people PSLF recounts. Um, if there are months that you are in forbearance that you don't get credit for, but those months would put you over the edge, they have something called a PSLF buyback. So you can say, hey, I have 3 months that I was in a forbearance because of COVID, or I'm in the save forbearance and I missed the last 6 months, but those 6 months are going to push me over the 120, and they will come up with there's some sort of calculation and they will give you a price, and you can buy back those months to get the rest of your debt forgiven. So you're basically paying a smaller amount to get the entire debt wiped out. Um, so this is a great option. Again, it's statutory, so it's not going anywhere right now. So this is something that this is a great reason to be in an IDR plan. If you know that you're in a public service and you're going to be there for 10 years, get an IDR, pay as little as possible, and just watch the number grow, and then watch it hopefully be forgiven. Next is borrower defense to repayment. This is if you went to a for-profit school and the school committed some type of fraud, or if the school is no longer in business. There was litigation from the last time President Trump was in office. He did not grant any borrower defense to repayment. And so an organization sued, and all of the people who should have gotten repayment because of schools that closed during that time period are now uh, automatically entitled to borrower defense to repayment. There are specifications in terms of time, but the schools have all closed down. So if you went to a school that it no longer exists because they were doing shady things, or they were lying about their numbers or lying about their placement, their career placement, you can do a borrower defense to repayment. I don't anticipate the current Department of Ed doing a lot of these. Even the last administration didn't do a lot of these unless it was a school that had already been designated. But this is a very tough burden to overcome. And then next we have total and permanent disability. So if you reach a certain age, or if you have some sort of affliction that keeps you from being able to, it says, be involved in substantial gainful activity. It doesn't mean that you can't work. There is a form. If you think that you or somebody that you know might be entitled to this, there is a form that the doctor can fill out. I would take a look at that and maybe have your doctor look at it to decide whether or not you meet those needs. But it doesn't mean that you can't work. It does mean that you can't substantially gainful activity. It doesn't, you shouldn't be working 40 hours a week. They're probably not going to grant it. You can also get total and permanent disability if you're receiving disability benefits, or if you are a veteran who has been labeled totally and permanently disabled. This right now, the applications are on hold. I think they are reopening this on March 1st, which is Saturday, so maybe Monday. Sometimes the government does shut down applications, but it's just because they're refreshing the system or they're changing servicers. So this is going to be reopened. If you qualify for this, I think you have a good shot at getting the entire loan forgiven. So if you are in an IDR plan, but you don't work for a public service organization, a nonprofit, or the government, you can continue to pay the smaller amount per month and watch the loan grow. And someday you might be entitled to a permanent disability discharge. I know that's not a lot to look forward to, but or you can, like I said, you can, unfortunately, realities of life, you will pass away, and the loan, no matter how high it is, will go away with you as well. Okay. So there are two parts, and those of you who are here, I'm sure, have student loan debts, and you have seen that it is very difficult to get straight answers. And that is often because this is like the dog at the end of Harry Potter with the many heads. You have the FSA, which is the federal government end of this, the Department of Education, but they hire servicers. So you might have seen Nelnet or AidVantage or Mohila. They are organizations or agencies or companies that the government hires to take care of your loan. And they don't always tell you the same thing. They are not always on the same page. So I think a lot of this is done purposefully to make this extra tricky so that people will just pay instead of trying to find ways to manage their loan efficiently. But no, if you are having problems with either the FSA or your servicer, you are not alone. Everybody who has a student loan has some type of problem with them, and I don't see that getting better anytime soon or ever. Again, PSLF, if it's something that you think you're in line for, apply right away. You need to have your loans consolidated. If you try to apply for PSLF and your loans aren't consolidated, they will tell you. The FSA website is very good at telling you what needs to be done first before you can do something else. So if you file for PSLF, they're going to say, nope, your loans aren't qualified because they're FFELP loans or they're Perkins loans. You need to consolidate them. So do that first, get into an IDR plan, and I would file for PSLF immediately. Don't wait till the end of 10 years. Do it now. Do it every single year. So if there is a problem, it's just from the previous year and you can address it. Like I said, a lot of my practice is doing PSLF recounts, and we're talking about, do you remember paying your student loan in January of 2011? I don't know. So, well, in order to get that month to count, we need to prove that you paid your loan that month. So getting that kind of proof is difficult. So I would recommend doing it yearly. So if they don't And you'll see, I think on the next slide, there's a PSLF tracker. So if you're just starting out and you make your PSLF application at the end of your first year, you should have 12 months of qualifying payments. If they give you 8, it's a lot easier to figure out those 4 months that you didn't get credit for and fight them on it, instead of 10 years later saying, I don't know, was I paying? Was I in a forbearance? I don't remember. Especially now with COVID and this save thing, a lot of us have been in forbearances and we don't even know it. So I would recommend doing it on a yearly basis. Even if you're 4 or 5 years into it, do it now, get started. It's going to be a lot easier to keep track of things. Okay. The PSLF tracker has always been a part of the FSA website, but these IDRF, or income driven repayment forgiveness trackers, are brand new. And this is what they look like. So if you're applying for PSLF, you need 120 and the green line will go up. So if you do it per year, you'll have 12, you'll have 24, you'll have 36, and you can watch it from year to year grow, which is great. I have in my office framed my PSLF tracker, and it's 120 out of 120. It's so exciting. But I always show them, like, you can do it. It is possible to get the green line all the way across and get rid of your loans completely. If it didn't happen in my case, I don't know that I would believe that the green line goes all the way across, but I have seen it. So this is very helpful. And like I said, the FSA website, I'm going to give the government credit where they deserve it. It is very easy to read. So you'll have a dashboard and it'll tell you your loans. You can see a loan breakdown. It's going to tell you all of the different loans, what their status is, what if you're in repayment, if you're in forbearance. So it's very easy to read. This second red box is new. This is if you're in an IDR plan and you're not getting forgiveness of any other kind, you're waiting for that 20 or 25 years, they're going to tell you, oh, you have 2 loans in an IDR plan, an income driven repayment plan. You have 278 remaining payments, but 23 years and 2 months. This might be stressful, but this is when it's going to go away, right? Until the end of your IDR payment term. So if you're paying a reasonable amount that you can afford, all you have to do is do it for the next 23 years. And who cares how much the balance is? It is going to be forgiven. That said, who knows what the future brings? Who knows what the future holds? And we don't know what's going to happen if the Department of Education goes away. We assume that the states will take over handling the loans and they might be able to make their own rules. But like I said, I think this income driven repayment idea will be available in some form. The government is always going to be, I shouldn't say that. The government, as of right now, is a lot more reasonable than a private loan originator. So stay private. I mean, stay with the government. Avoid private loans. Avoid institutional loans. They're in the middle. Okay, this is my information. If we're going to take questions, but if you want to talk further about your specific services, I mean, your specific situation, like I said, this is strategies. There's no one right answer. It depends on your situation. It depends on your loans. It depends on your goals. Maybe you want to stop with Starbucks so that you can spend more money to pay down your loan because you really want to be done in the next 10 years. Yeah, that's awesome. That's the right thing for you then. There is no one right answer. But the options: pay, delay, or die. So it's pretty much just pay and delay. But this is my information if you want to write it down. If you lose it or forget it, Sal has it and he can certainly get it, or you can get it on our website. And there are some other resources, I believe. Oh no. I think there's a whole bunch of links. This is recorded. I believe I will also send the slides to you, Sal. So if you
Great.
want to post
Fantastic.
as well.
We will.
Okay, I'm getting the spinning wheel of death. So, but there are another couple pages of resources. But are there any questions before? know it's a lot of information and it's very confusing, and it's confusing on purpose, but there are options.
And again, please use the chat feature. You'll see a button at the bottom of your screen that says chat. You can click on that.
Subsidized versus unsubsidized is basically how is interest going to be handled. So subsidized means the government handles interest when your loan is on hold. So if you go back to school or you remain in school, a subsidized loan is not going to gain any interest. The government's going to take care of the interest. Whereas an unsubsidized loan, if in school deferment stops all interest, but if you're in another forbearance, or another deferment for whatever reason, your interest is not going to be paid. It's going to grow. So a lot of people right now in the SAVE forbearance with unsubsidized loans, their interest is accruing. And the government gives out both, and there are limits for undergrad as to how much you can get subsidized and how much you can get unsubsidized. But most people get both. You can reach out to me if you have more specific questions and you want specific. We can meet or we can do it over Zoom, and I can look at your FSA dashboard and see exactly what your loan status is, and we can talk about the options. Or EdCap is a great website. But yeah, you can reach out to me and we can do a one-on-one. You could become a client. Our services are free. Not a lot of people know that. So if you have friends or family who also have student debt, please spread the word. I know a lot of people who are familiar with legal services or Nassau-Suffolk Law Services. They say, "Oh, that's for people who can't afford lawyers. That's for people who are suffering some sort of poverty." But this particular program is not the case. We can help anybody and everybody. That's a great question. All Parent Plus loans unsubsidized. I'm not sure of that. I would assume yes, because there's no limit with Parent Plus loans. Um, Parent Plus loans and Graduate Plus loans, there are no limits. So I would assume that they're all unsubsidized, but I don't know that for sure. But Parent Plus loans, you could take out as much as you want, up to the cost of attendance. But that's a good question. I can reach out to EdCap. They know everything. Parent Plus loans also qualify for PSLF. So if you have a Parent Plus loan, you can get into that income contingent repayment plan. It's a little bit more per month, but after 10 years, 10 years from when that loan started, you can have those forgiven, even though the student, your child, isn't the one in the civil service job necessarily, but they will qualify.
Really good questions.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised you guys stayed for a whole hour. That's awesome. Can the income-driven process be reverted back? Meaning, can you go from an income-driven repayment plan back to a standard repayment plan? Yeah, you can. You can also go in between, like right now, some people who are in the SAVE forbearance who are trying to get PSLF are we've been in this forbearance for a really long time, and they're aggravated that they're not getting these months counted. So they have been applying to move to the IBR, the income-based repayment plan, so they can just get out of this save mess and get the credit. So yes, you can move within. Again, the IDR plans are income-based, and there is that income test. So you would have to apply to go back or to go back and forth between income-driven repayment plans. But yeah, you can go back to a standard based or an extended standard or a graduated standard. Yeah. Again, the hardest part of doing that is just the backlog. It's not all right, I'm going to fill up or upload the application or press the buttons on the computer and it happens. It's a process. Okay, have not paid loan for years. What does that mean for me? The loan is prior to COVID. I would check the status of your loan if you're in repayment. The other thing that's great about government loans is if you are in default, In years past, they don't come after you, meaning they don't litigate, they don't sue you for the money. That might be changing. We've heard rumors that they are going to start. In fact, the government doesn't have to sue you. They can do wage garnishments and they can take your tax refunds if you have them. They haven't done that in the past. There are some pretty lenient or there are some good options for either rehabilitating your loan if it is in default, or you can consolidate old loans once and get out of default. So if your loan is in default, if it's a federal loan, there are options to get it out of default and to get back on track and to get in an IDR and to work towards whatever type of forgiveness you might be able to. But I would check the status of it. It might still be in a forbearance. That's something that I would confirm. This is one of those situations, these forbearances, where your FSA dashboard might say one thing. Check with your servicer because they might have it as something else. So it's kind of dealing with that two-headed Harry Potter dog. Just make sure they're both on the same page and figure out which one is accurate, and go from there. Uh,
Courtney, I don't know if you saw there was a question up a little farther up the thread from
okay,
Donna Smith.
let's see. Sorry, Donna.
Have people started the IDR process, paid less monthly, had loans increase in what's owed, then been denied forgiveness?
It depends on the type of forgiveness. With the IDR forgiveness, which is there's no hurdles to jump over. It's just the 20 or 25 years. There's nothing to deny. Whether or not they're actually doing it is something to be seen and something that moving forward we're going to have to see. I don't personally. I've never seen that, but I've never been in a situation where I've had a client who's at the 20 or 25 years of being in an IDR plan um, seek that type of forgiveness. I have seen PSLF not granted. I have seen total and permanent disability not granted, but with that, they usually tell you why. And you can have the doctor resubmit more paperwork for more proof. But in terms of just the straight IDR plan forgiveness, I don't know. And anything that I did know would be up in the air, I think, moving forward. But after 20 or 25 years, you can continue to pay the lower per month IDR and work towards that total and permanent disability, or, pay the minimum until you expire. So okay, I worked for a nonprofit for 12 years, but the Parent Plus loan is in my husband's name. You know what? That's a great question. Um, that I don't know the answer to. Parent Plus loan is in my husband's name. I'm wondering. You know what? I would have to follow up. I don't know if you can change the name on the loan or if you can consolidate it into your name and then apply for PSLF. That's a great question. Sal, would it be possible to get everybody's name and address who
A-
registered?
Absolutely. I'll send
Okay.
that to you. Yep.
So, Terry, that's a great question. I've never had that come up, but I will reach out to Nancy at EdCap, who is our go-to, and she knows the answer to everything. So I will check on that and I will email you a response because that's a great question. Yeah, again with this forgiveness, it's really just how comfortable are you watching the principal grow and the interest grow, and it's a high number and that's stressful.
So if there are any other questions, if not, I'm sure Courtney wouldn't mind you sending her an email
Not at all.
with whatever questions you might have. But Courtney, thank you so much. This was very informative, and I think I'm going to be making T-shirts that say "Pay it, delay it, die" or "Die." But yeah, so this is really great stuff, and it was very informative, and I greatly appreciate you coming down tonight and telling us all about it.
Of course. Thanks for having us and spread the word.
Absolutely, and we'll have you back, Courtney. Definitely do another program.
Excellent. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, thank you, and thank you everybody for coming tonight. And again, visit our YouTube page, and that's where you'll be able to see the recording of tonight's webinar. So thanks so much. Have a great night, everyone. Be safe, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Al.
Bye bye.